Today, I'm going to show you a way to add color to your projects that makes it so much easier. That and I end up with blue hands. That's coming up. Hello everyone, my name's Daniel Reeks. This is Weaver Leather Supply. Today, we're going to be taking a look at one of the easiest ways I've ever added color to a leather project. Now, this particular technique works with Angelus paints and Fiebing's dyes, and it probably works with other paints and dyes too, but those are the ones that I used for this particular project. Weaver just came out with their own line of paint markers. Now, paint markers aren't anything new, but these ones in particular are unique in a couple of different ways. The first thing I really like about them is that you can fill them with pretty much whatever medium you want to fill them with. So my go-to was going to be the Angelus paints and the Fiebing's Pro Dye. Those are the ones that I use more often than anything else. So it works really well for those, but you could probably fill them with something else as well. The ability to fill a paint marker with a custom or personalized color, it's not overly unique. There's other markers out there that can do that, but it's a really nice feature. So one of the things I thought was really unique, and I put on a glove so that I can show you this, one of the things that shortens the lifespan of a marker like this is just wear and tear over time. This, I think, is a felt tip on it. I easily could be wrong about that, so don't quote me on it. But over time, this little nib is not going to be as tight. It's going to wear out. Well, on most markers, that just means that's the end of the marker. But with these, what you can do is you can actually lift out that nib, flip it over, and put it back down in there. And now we've got a brand new nib in there, and you've doubled the lifespan of the marker. Now, you can't do that with all the markers. Like this one right here is a really good example. This is the widest of them. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I'm going to say that's 1.25 inches wide, roughly. If you pull this one out, the other end of it doesn't match the main, the end that's sticking out to begin with. So you can't flip this particular one over, but the other ones, most of them, you can flip them over and double the length of the marker, lifespan of the marker, not length. That wouldn't make any sense. That brings us to one of the other things that I really like about these. You can see how wide that one is. I believe this one is the smallest one. And if I can take the lid off of that, give you an idea there. Can you see that? You can see how tiny that is. That's like a Sharpie marker kind of size on that one, a small Sharpie marker. So all the way from that one up to the much wider one, they come in all different shapes and sizes, and that's really helpful. And you're going to see that in the project we're going to work on here in a minute, but I really like the fact that you've got different sizes to work with. So I've used all kinds of different methods to put color on leather and on canvas. Most of the time I'm painting something that needs to be blended, and that's one of the few drawbacks, downsides to using a paint pen like this, a paint marker, is that they don't blend very easily. Can you do it? Yeah, with some practice you could get it to do it somewhat, but it's not overly easy. But that's like the one downside to it. Most of the time when we're putting color on leather, we're doing what we call color blocking, where you're putting down blocks of color in specific areas. And that's what we're going to be working on today. But if we're going to test these things, put them to the test, see how they perform, we're going to need a project to test them on. And that's what we're going to do now. So quick little montage, and I'll be back in a second. So my goal here is to do as much of this project as I can with the paint markers. Now there's a few areas where I just can't do that, like the really fine details around the letters. The markers just aren't small enough to get in those specific areas. But everything else, the goal is to do it with the paint markers. And to do that, we're gonna need white for the lettering, blue for the background, and brown dye for the border. But obviously the first thing we need to do is actually get the liquid into the markers. So you're gonna need a few things. Number one, obviously we need the marker. Then we either need a funnel or a pipette. I think it's called a pipette. And then your liquid, the dye or paint or whatever it is you're putting in there. First thing we need to do, gonna pop off the cap. Then we're gonna unscrew the top of the marker. Just be aware that some of them unscrew backwards. I'm not sure why, but some of them do. So don't let that throw you off. Once you've got the top of the marker unscrewed, then we're gonna pop out this little valve that's in the top of the marker, but it comes out real easy. Just get your fingernail under it and it'll pop right out. So you may notice that there's a couple of glass beads down in there. If you listen, you can hear them. It's kind of like a rattle can. It helps the paint mix up. You can take them out while you fill it up, or you can leave them in there. Either one is fine. Just don't lose them. From here, we're just gonna add the liquid with either the pipette or the funnel. I like using the pipette. It makes it a little easier. But if you're using paint, you're gonna need to dilute it. And the way we do that, Angelus makes a fantastic thinner. It's called Too Thin. I mix 3 parts paint with 1 part thinner. And you can adjust it from there if it's too thick or thin. But just know that if it's too thick, it won't come through the marker, or if it's too thin, it'll come out way too fast and it'll be watery and you won't be able to control it once it's on the canvas. Now that we've got that done, we can go ahead and actually start painting the project. And to do that, I'm gonna be using one of the smaller markers, mainly because I wanna make sure, I wanna see how fast it comes out, how easily I control it. So I wanna start with the smallest one that I've got white in. I'm gonna do that first, just because I wanna kind of see how they work before I really get too aggressive. The smaller marker's doing great, so I decided to go up to the next larger size and use it in the larger areas on the letters. And what I found is that the paint went on much smoother with that larger marker, which kind of makes sense, but it also came out a little faster too. Now, I don't know if the mix was slightly different or if it was just the size difference in the markers, but it was enough of a difference in the ability to control the flow that I thought I should mention it. I'm thinking maybe there was a little bit more thinner in this mix than there was in the smaller one, but I'm not 100% positive on that. Just be a little cautious as you're using the larger markers. Once we got the big letters done, then it's time for them little bitty ones. And obviously I'm gonna go with the smallest white marker that I have. And I was genuinely surprised at how quickly this thing I just flew right through it. It was much faster than if I was using a paintbrush.
Life is a winding road, no telling where it goes. Driving through days and nights, won't stop for traffic lights. And I really wanna know if I'll ever figure out where the road goes.
And this is where things kind of went off the rails and I ended up with blue hands. So what happened was I was filling the marker up. It was going to be my blue marker. And just like all the other ones, I went in from the top. Well, I noticed that I had a little bit of thinner and paint on my hand, and I was genuinely confused. I didn't know where it came from because I was very careful to make sure I didn't spill any, but it kept getting worse over the next few seconds. And what I realized is that the bottom of this marker, so this one and this one, both of them can be unscrewed. So this one doesn't have anything in it. You can unscrew the back of this, and then you can fill it from the back instead of going in from the front. Well, that's gonna make filling it a whole lot easier than, if you have to take the whole thing apart to get in there, which is not bad. But the problem was I didn't know this one was like that. It's got a little cap right here, a plug that you can unscrew, and then you can just put your liquid straight in there. This is the only one out of all of them that has that style of cap on the back of them. All the rest of them, they're closed off. You can't get in from the back. But this one and this one both have the ability to go in from the back of the marker, the top of the marker. And that little lid, that little plug wasn't screwed on good and tight, and it was leaking all over my hands, and I ended up with blue paint on my hands. But, mistake on my part, a project failure on my part, it's a learning opportunity for y'all. So just be aware, these two particular markers, you can go in from the top or the back of the marker, or whatever that would be. And it's a lot easier to fill these up. Just make sure you got the lid on tight. Now that we got the lettering done, it's time to go in and do that blue background with one of our paint markers. I'm going to be using one of the larger markers to do this just to see how quickly I can do it compared to using a brush. And really, I was genuinely surprised at how quickly and consistently the paint went down on the leather. Now, I couldn't get right up to the edge of the letters because, I'm working with a snub nose marker that doesn't have a fine point on it. But I covered a lot of ground very quickly.
Let's figure out where the road goes. Even if I'm falling down, I will keep on searching for my highs. You can say I lost my mind, I will keep on holding my head high. Even if the sky is falling down, even if the sky is falling down, yeah. The sky is falling down.
Once I got the main portion of the background done, then I went back in with a fine tip paintbrush and went around the lettering to really get as crisp a line around those letters as I could.
Even if the sky is falling down, even if the sky is falling down, yeah. The sky is falling down.
From here, we need to do something with that border. So a marker with a wide tip and some Phoebing's Pro Dye in chocolate took care of that, made quick work of it. After that, I just sealed it with leather sheen, the aerosol kind. That way I don't run any risk of lifting the paint off the project. From there, it was just a matter of antiquing it. And it was a really quick antique process. I used Phoebing's antique paste in medium brown. Pretty much I applied it to the project and immediately wiped it back off. So I expected these paint markers to be good because they're from Weaver. Let's face it. If you're going to get something from Weaver, it's going to be high quality. So I expected them to be good, but I was genuinely surprised at how well the paint went down, how consistent the colors are, and how easy they are to use. So if you want to get your own set, we'll put a link in the description. But that's going to do it for this video. I will see you in the next one. In the meantime, go make something amazing.